So I was actually wondering what a pipeline is, because when I first heard about it, I was an intern at the time, and there was this magical pipeline that can push changes to the production, and sometimes it can take days because you have freeze changes and so forth. But a pipeline pretty much is a mechanism that will be able to roll out changes that you have within an application to the production environment. Ideally, that's going to be automated. And this is what is nowadays known as the continuous integration or continuous delivery. So CI and CD. And with the CI and CD, you usually have different stages that you'd like to go through. So once you have your application, you developed a new functionality. The next thing is actually to have some tests. I think this is quite a natural thing to do if you want to have something secure in production. It's very often overlooked, but definitely do write your test and actually do think what are those gaps that you might want to catch before pushing to production. And some of them are quite easy. Maybe some linting is going to be the answer, maybe syntax checking and so forth. So there are tools that does that for you. So do look into kind of integrating those tests. So you have your application, you test it, it kind of passes everything you've been writing out there. The next stage is to package it, building that artifact. So when we're talking about an environment where we had data centers, usually the artifact is going to be a binary. And you can have different formats as well, depending on where we run it, on which operating system, and so forth. When you're talking about cloud native, there's going to be a container image, so usually a Docker image. And what's very good about the Docker image is that you can have a set of instructions building your binary or your artifact. So, and that's something, again, declarative. You can reuse that, you can change it accordingly. Or if you don't want to use Docker, for example, you can, as mentioned before, you can use a tool such as Podman or Buildah, which will build all of these kind of the container image straight away for you. And once you have this image, usually you'll need to store it somewhere. So that's going to be, again, in different environments, it's going to be Artifactory. With Cloud Native, you'll be able to use something like Docker Hub. You can use Harbor. You can use Artifact Hub, currently available. So there are options to store your image out there. So this is going to be all of these stages. So building a functionality, testing it, packaging it, and distributing it. This is going to be the continuous integration. So you've integrated a new functionality, and your end result is going to be a binary. Now, the next stage of it is, how do I push this binary? How do I push all of these changes to the production environment? And this is where we have the continuous delivery. With the continuous delivery, usually we have to pretty much propagate the application for different stages. When you're talking about an organization that, again, has resources, usually there are 3 to 4 environments that you will need to pass it through. The first one is going to be the dev environment. You might have a QA as well. Debatable. Some companies do, some companies don't. Definitely have a staging, and then the final one is going to be the production. So the reason you actually have all of these environments, and more importantly, they should be set up similarly. So the difference between them is just maybe the endpoint you reach to that cluster, so the API endpoint. But everything else in terms of the setup internally is going to be the same. So what you actually do within the continuous delivery process is propagating it from one environment to the other. So QA, staging, and production. And the passing through all of these stages, the result should be the same. The application should be up and running. So you have at least 2 possibilities to verify your application and how it responds to the other components within the cluster. It's not just the application running, it's about how it affects other components within the cluster. And if it doesn't and everything is fine, even greater. So once you reach the production stage, this is pretty much the continuous delivery process, and hopefully it's going to be up and running all the way through. So these are pretty much all of the stages that we have.